I am Dr. Rick Bright, a career public servant and a scientist who has spent 25 years of my career focused on addressing pandemic outbreaks. I've led teams of scientists developing drugs, vaccines, and diagnostics in government, private industry, and for nonprofit organizations. We are facing a highly transmissible and deadly virus. Our economy is spiraling downward, and our population is being paralyzed by fear. If we fail to improve our response now, based on science, I fear the pandemic will get worse and be prolonged. There will be likely a resurgence of COVID-19 this fall. It'll be greatly compounded by the challenges of seasonal influenza. Without better planning, 2020 could be the darkest winter in modern history. First and foremost, we need to be truthful with the American people. Americans deserve the truth. The truth must be based on science. We have the world's greatest scientists. Let us lead. Let us speak without fear of retribution. We must listen. Each of us can and must do our part now. On Tuesday, Dr. Fauci delivered a message in a voice that is clear and trustworthy as he encouraged us to act with caution as we return to our daily lives. We should listen to him and other scientists sharing their expertise.
Professor Mahdi believes there will be multiple waves of the COVID-19 outbreak until 2022, painting a bleak picture of what still lies ahead for the country.
Unfortunately, it's going to be quite a dark winter, and I think the experience...
Britain is braced for a dark winter as new measures are deployed to stem a surge of coronavirus. Fearing economic meltdown too, it's lockdown light for now. The onus put on people to follow the rules. If the new moves fail, existing social restrictions could get even tougher and last 6 months. Many now crying Christmas is cancelled.
The governor said they will continue to collaborate and for now continue mandates on masks and bars because the battle is ongoing.
I said in March it was going to be a long, dark winter. We're still in that long, dark winter.
Dr. Michael Osterholm is the director of the Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy at the University of Minnesota.
We actually have a convergence of factors which really are making for what is, I think, going to be the darkest part of the pandemic over the course of the next 12 weeks.
When you say the darkest days are ahead, that phrase sticks out to me. What does that mean? What does that look like?
Vice President Biden, your reaction, and just 40% of Americans say they would definitely agree to take a coronavirus vaccine if it was approved by the government. What steps would you take to give Americans confidence in a vaccine if it were approved?
This is the same fellow who told you this is going to end by Easter last time. This is the same fellow who told you that, don't worry, we're going to end this by the summer. We're about to go into a dark winter. And he has no clear plan, and there's no prospect that there's going to be a vaccine available for the majority of the American people before the middle of next year.
President Trump, your reaction, he says you have no plan.
We're going to have a dark winter. Joe Biden is promising a long, dark, painful winter. Did you see it? No, he said a long, dark winter. Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. That's just what our country needs, is a long, dark winter.
There's a need for bold action to fight this pandemic. We're still facing a very dark winter.
A Minnesota expert has been named to join President-elect Joe Biden's coronavirus task force, and he has a dire warning for all of us. University of Minnesota infectious disease expert Michael Osterholm is one of 13 experts on the new COVID-19 advisory board.
And, I think that there's no question that our hospitals are about to be overrun. We're going to see by far the darkest days of this pandemic between now and next spring when vaccine becomes available.
New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy.
Unless we all recommit to the common sense measures that got us past the first horrendous months of this pandemic, we are in for a long, dark winter.
These next weeks and months are going to be absolutely crucial to trying to contain this virus. The numbers are all going in the wrong direction, and we are facing a very dark winter.
The country is still in a crisis, and there's a dark winter still ahead. The governor's talked about how getting doses of vaccine distributed is just one step. We have to actually get vaccinations into the arms of 330 million Americans.
Our predictive modeling shows this going until March of next year if we don't change something. So for us, it could be a long, dark winter. What we need for the community to do is heed the warnings. You should be listening to us.
failure to listen has serious consequences.
And we have set another grim record tonight. Over 2,700 deaths now in 24 hours' time. That's a record for this pandemic. That means it's worse than the bad old days, the darkest days of the pandemic last spring. This from the CDC director.
The reality is December and January and February are going to be rough times. I actually believe they're going to be the most difficult time in the public health history of this nation.
And thank you for joining us for this special session of the United Nations General Assembly in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. It has been almost 1 year since the COVID-19 pandemic started. And as the virus continues its deadly onslaught, surging for a second wave in many countries, could you describe what went wrong? And what are the priorities for WHO in getting through this dark winter? Is the vaccine our only hope?
Before the surge in COVID cases, many predicted, and the deaths rise that we've seen in December as we head into a very dark winter ahead.
And more than 9 months into the pandemic, COVID-19 is spreading with a vengeance. It has now killed a reported 280,000 Americans, according to Johns Hopkins University. Record numbers of new cases and hospitalizations increase concern that a dark winter is ahead. CBS 4's Michael George.
Not only for New York State, but for any state or city that is facing similar problems. Without substantial mitigation, the middle of January can be a really dark time for us.
The first vaccination given is obviously a sign of hope. But the record number of cases today and the 300,000 death milestone is a reminder that we're still in the middle of what will be a very, very, very dark winter. There are, literally probably tens of thousands of deaths left before the end of the year, more deaths after that.
Fear that we are entering a very, very dark winter.
Dark winter.
Dark winter.
Dark winter.
Dark winter.
Dark winter.
Very dark winter.
In June 2001, the DoD conducted a war game called Operation Dark Winter.
Dark Winter was a major exercise that was done prior to 9/11, earlier in 2001, to look at the effects of a biological terror event.
We had to, think about things like, quarantines and martial law. All of a sudden, our system wasn't our system anymore because we had this terrible thing going on, and we had to change the way the military interrelated with the civilian world.
Welcome to Event 201.
It began in healthy-looking pigs, months, perhaps years ago. A new coronavirus spread.
We're at the start of what's looking like it will be a severe pandemic. And there are problems emerging that can only be solved by global business and governments working together.